Here.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And here we go. This is Mike Lodge. I am the business advisor on another cold morning. Hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're up, getting your cup of coffee, starting your new day. Or maybe you're already in your day, depending on what time you're listening to us. It's okay to have that other cup of coffee as you sit down and listen. We're going to have a conversation here. So I pulled up my news feeds and looked at the content that I was going to talk today. I thought I could move beyond the failure of these banks, but it looks like I can't, because every single article in the business section of my feed was on this very subject. And I think it's a good learning lesson also, because as we examine what really happened at these banks, we can see how we need to apply this also to our businesses or even to our homes. Now, you had really basically three things that happened in these banks. One, they were not diversified enough. They were dependent upon one sector of lending. And the second one is some of them were heavily involved in crypto. And when crypto fell, they fell. And the third part, which is probably the most important, is that you had bad leaders. You had bad management. You had management that was so focused on other things besides the actual business of running a bank that their eyes were off the balls of the running of a company. They did not focus. They did not look at the risk. Instead, they got into other areas that they should never have been in. You see, if you're going to run a business, you have to focus on that business. You have to be able to see the risks that are coming upon you. Remember, over the weekend and last week, we had the failure of three banks. Silvergate Bank, and then Silicon Valley Bank, and then Signature Bank. Silvergate and Signature were not diversified at all. They were fully focused on crypto. You can never run a bank and be only focused on one sector, but they were. And when crypto fell, they came tumbling down with it also, and their liquidity was gone. Silicon Valley was devoted to startups, venture capital. And they were investing in these companies and then having these companies come aboard as clients of the bank. Unfortunately, as you know, tech companies, have not had a good year. And they've been laying people off. And in laying people off, they have been looking to go to other banks. And so some of these companies have even failed. Tech companies have failed. They have a high rate of failure. So then they had a rush on their bank of companies and people wanting to get out of that bank and moving their funds elsewhere. And they got to the point where they were negative in cash. And so the feds had to come into all three of these banks because management was run wrong. And if you look at the history of some of these people, if you look at the history of Signature Bank, you had Barney Frank in there as one of the board members. Probably the most controversial individual that left Congress and then went into banking. Silicon Valley Bank, the CEO there, had been at Lehman Brothers. So you have these people who came into these industries not with the best of reputations, and they were running billion-dollar banks. And we can see what happened. So diversity, you can never be focused only on one sector of the market. You can't do that. especially in banking or in any business. I'll take a good example of me. I'm just a one-man operation, but I provide business advisory work, I provide business tax work, and I provide business mediation work. I have 3 sources of revenue coming in. But if you only have one and something goes bad in the marketplace, it can destroy you. And that's exactly what happened with some of these banks. They were not diversified enough. They were not covering car loans. They were not covering home mortgage loans. They were not covering other industries of companies who need to expand their construction industry or whatever. They were not in other areas. Instead, they were just in one, VC capital in crypto. Now, I'm going to be very forthcoming with you, and that is, I do not believe in crypto at all. I see it filled with so much fraud. Excuse me. I see it filled with so much fraud around the world that if that fraud hits a bank, it could literally destroy a bank. Yesterday I was listening to Twitter, and all day long they were talking about the crypto markets and also what happened in the banks. Remember, 20 of the banks had to be halted yesterday from trading on the stock exchange because their stocks fell so drastically low that it went to a certain level and they were all shut off because it was literally hurting the companies. Will we have more? Yes. We have more coming. We just don't know who. There's speculation out there. People are throwing out names. But we have to be focused on our own financial affairs. I did like one thing that came out of yesterday. And let me see if I can find it here. And it was Timothy O'Leary. And he made a very good comment. Let me find it here. And he was talking about why we should not have all of our money in one bank. Because if one fails, at least you have another one set aside. But he made a good point about looking at our own risks as businesses and as individuals. And as you know, I've been telling you guys for quite some time now, don't have all of your money in one bank. Because that is a risk. You've now created a risk. Because if one goes down, it's going to hurt you if you have your money just in one bank. O'Leary said this. He told all of his portfolio companies that he does not want to see more than 20% of any liquid asset in any one institution. Now that is good advice. It's good advice because then he has minimized his risk. Because the problem right now that we see is liquidity. And once a bank has no longer have liquidity, that affects us. Now, we have that $250,000 FDIC policy. But there are some companies out there who have tremendously more than $250,000. So whatever is sitting out there in excess is at risk. So as we look at this, it's a good learning experience about what not to do. If you're going to have a company, make sure that you have managers who have a good, stellar reputation on what to do with that company. And we need to look not only at our business risk, but we need to look at our personal financial risk. And if you are going to run a business, make sure it's diversified so that if one sector of the industry goes down, you've got other cash flow coming in. That is the most important part. At one point in time, when I lived in Los Angeles, before I became old, I had several different companies running. And I was so thankful that I did, because when one sector went down, I had cash flow still coming in from another company or two companies. At one point in time, I had several companies open. I had a tax advisory company open. I had a healthcare staffing company going. I had a real estate company going. So I knew that if any given time that we had a slowness, like the real estate industry at one point in time went really slow, but I still had staffing. I still had the tax side. And thank God I did. Diversity in your business and in your personal life. Look at your sources of income that's coming into your house. If you just have one source of income, if you just have one person working, one layoff can destroy a personal finance of a family. And if you are not budgeting, if you are not managing your personal finance well, you could be another Silvergate, or you could be another one of these banks that don't manage well. You see, it can happen to banks that we think are doing very well. But behind the scenes, because we don't see behind the scenes, they can be taken out very quickly. So we, as individuals, have got to be diversified ourselves. We have got to be good money managers of our personal lives. And we have got to become better managers at what we do, which means you study as much as you possibly can and get as much education on how to manage money that you can. I don't care what level you are at, you have the ability to go out there and study. Free of charge on the internet. There's so many courses out there that people offer. Diversify your knowledge, diversify your finances, and become better managers. Now, will we see something else happen in the banking industry? Yeah, we're going to see it. We're going to see some more banks fall away for the very same reason. And we have to be prepared. Now, is this going to destroy our economy? No, it's not going to destroy our economy. But if the Feds and if Biden keeps getting involved in bank failures, then he has really basically taken over the banking industry. And that is not good. When government gets too involved in our banking industry, now we need rules and regulations, yes, and we need better people to enforce those rules and regulations, but we don't need government stepping in and bailing out these banks when they were so badly run. It's just, listen, it's a bailout. Let's call it a bailout. And that's exactly what it was. It was a bailout. Listen, if you have any questions on business or anything else, I answer all questions. Send it to thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. If you want to know more about me and about my firm, go to www.lodge-co.com. Let's be better managers. Let's do better. This is Mike Lodge. Go out and have a great day. Love you all. Bye-bye.